Why don't we go ahead and get started?
Okay. All right.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jay Coburn, the CEO of the Community Development Partnership, and it's great to see you all at this latest in our series of community conversations. We're going to talk a bit about the new media campaign that we've launched in the last couple weeks in support of housing. But before we focus on that and I introduce our guests, let me give you a quick update about some of the things that are going on at the CDP. This has been lobby week for community development corporations across the Commonwealth. We have a very strong state association, the Massachusetts Association of Community Development Corporations, that represent us in Boston. I actually happen to chair the policy committee of MACDC, and we kicked off lobby week on Monday with a gathering of about 100 CDC staff and board members to prepare them to be contacting with their legislators, which will be having meetings with Rep. Peake and Senator Sear later in the coming weeks. We've also had the opportunity to meet with some officials in the administration. Yesterday, I participated in a meeting with the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development Secretary Mike Keneally, and the new CEO of Mass Development, Dan Rivera, who has just left being the mayor of Lawrence, Mass, to take over that important role in fostering community development by providing financing at Mass Development. We had a really great meeting and an opportunity to talk about the needs for more housing, to celebrate the governor's big win in passing the housing choice legislation, which is going to make it a lot easier for us to pass accessory dwelling unit bylaws, changes, zoning reforms, and other zoning measures at town meeting now with just a 50%, with a majority vote rather than a 2/3 majority. And I also had the opportunity to talk about the tremendous challenges our small businesses are having survived COVID and now facing what is promising to be an extraordinarily busy season, but with no staff because of our lack of housing for working people. And so we're going to actually be having a follow-up meeting with Dan Rivera to talk about the potential of trying to provide some financing options for temporary worker housing on the outer Cape. This afternoon, the MACDC board and myself met with Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito and had a great hour-long discussion about the work that CDCs have been doing throughout the last year in response to the COVID pandemic, and as well as our agenda for the future. And one of the hot topics of that discussion was what is the state going to do with the approximately $4 billion in federal funding through the latest COVID relief package that President Biden proposed and was passed by the Congress. And while Governor Baker was not in a position at that time to go into great detail, he did give a preview that the administration would be proposing to use significant pots of that money for housing production and housing initiatives. And I think that is very, very good news in terms of the challenges that we're facing in our community. I'm really proud of the great work that our small business and economic development team at the CDP has done to move forward relief funding to our region's small businesses. I think as many of you are aware, we are administering a regional community development block grant that is particularly targeted at low to moderate income owned businesses. Many of these businesses just not well positioned to take advantage of the PPP program or some of the other funding initiatives, and we've been able to get out about $350,000 in up to $10,000 forgivable loans to these LMI-owned small businesses. We have about another $50,000 to move out, hopefully by the end of June. And that's on top of the $750,000 in PPP loans that we help facilitate by supporting small businesses and helping them fill out the applications and evaluate whether that program would work for them. So I'm really pleased that thanks to the great work of Pam Anderson and Ann Robinson and our team, that we've injected over $1 million to over 60 small businesses in the region, and particularly the businesses that are really the most vulnerable and in greatest need. This morning, the town of Wellfleet issued a request for proposals to develop up to 46 units of affordable housing at the Lawrence Road site across the street from the Wellfleet Elementary School. And I'm pleased to share with you that the CDP has formed a partnership with Preservation of Affordable Housing to respond to that RFP and propose a development that we would be owned and managed by POA in partnership with the CDP. And this will be the first affordable housing real estate project that we've been involved in over 10 years, but it demonstrates our renewed commitment to get back into the real estate development space. And in addition to all the advocacy work that we are doing, to actually be involved in building projects on the Lower Cape. And then finally, on Sunday, the state released the Community Investment Tax Credit Awards. This year, you'll recall that a couple of years ago, Rep. Peake amended this legislation to increase the amount of tax credits are available statewide, but also to each individual CDC. And so we were granted an award of $250,000 in tax credits that will enable us to leverage $500,000 in private investment into the CDP by individuals and businesses in our region. So that's an additional $100,000 capacity then above what we had last year. So we'll be reaching out to folks about the CITC program. In the past 2 years, we have actually run out of tax credits as we got into November each year, and we've again are having significant demand, and I anticipate that will happen to us again. And so, if the Community Investment Tax Credit Program is something you're interested in taking advantage of, please reach out to Britt, because we are happy to reserve tax credits for your use as long as that happens by as long as you can make the contribution by the end of the calendar year. So that's an update about some of the things that are happening here at the CDP. So today we wanted to spend some time unveiling our latest media campaign that is part of the Community Housing Partnership program that we launched back in 2017. If you're not familiar with that effort, I'll take a couple minutes to just kind of introduce it to you. Several years ago, we were involved in working with a developer and trying to create 100 units of affordable housing at the Tea Time site on Route 6 in Eastham. And unfortunately, we weren't successful that time around in moving that project forward. But that failure actually served as a catalyst for us to recognize that we needed to be providing a lot more support and building the capacity of our community to be able to engage in the production of affordable housing. And so we launched the Community Housing Partnership that year. That is comprised of 3 components. The first is the Housing Institute, which we've just wrapped up the 4th year of training for elected and appointed municipal officials who are involved in housing production, as well as town staff. So that includes Affordable Housing Trust Fund, Affordable Housing Committee members, Community Preservation Committees, zoning, planning, Conservation Commission, Finance Committee staff, as well as Select Board members. And it has been a multi-pronged strategy of not only running a Housing Institute every year, but continuing to convene quarterly peer group meetings and offer advanced training so that our great volunteers who are trying to move forward with housing production in our communities have the skills and knowledge and resources to be able to make that happen. We have also, over the last 4 years, been working to organize community members and provide training to community members to be advocates, so that, you know, when we've got a public hearing or a zoning hearing on a project, or we've got a vote before town meeting to move zoning bylaw changes forward, or to vote for community preservation or other funding, that we've got people who are showing up at town meetings and able to speak in support of affordable housing. And I'm pleased that because of both of these efforts, that over the last 4 town meeting cycles, we've seen close to 50 zoning bylaw changes move forward in the 8 Lower Cape towns, and seen those towns approve over $20 million in local funds for housing initiatives. And now every single town on the Lower Cape has at least one parcel that they are working on that in the development process, which is a far cry from where we were 5 years ago. The third part of the Community Housing Partnership is a media campaign, out of the recognition that so many of our housing decisions are actually being made by our citizens, either at town meeting or at the ballot box. And that if we could put a face on the needs of affordable housing in our community and help voters understand that the people who need affordable housing, as our campaign is entitled, are the people who can't afford to live here, and that we can't afford to lose the people who can't afford to live here. And so 3 years ago, we launched a print ad campaign, and I'm featuring a Wellfleet EMT paramedic, a teacher in the Nauset Regional School System, and a health worker at Outer Cape Health Services, all who have faced housing challenges. And this year, we have videos, which you are about to see, featuring the stories of 3 Lower Cape residents. And 2 of those residents, Maren Reinhardt and Rashida Jameson, are here tonight to share their stories after we look at the videos. So with that, Jason, why don't you go ahead and show these videos, and then we'll come back and hear a few words from Maren and Rashida, and then get a chance for your questions.
There are folks who are retirees and you know, are living off of a small teacher's pension and Social Security. That just doesn't provide enough money to be able to afford to buy a $500,000 house, or to spend a couple $1,000s a month on rent.
We had an older home, so it was basically our savings.
All of the things that we loved about our house and what we were doing for 40 years out of the 50, we could no longer do.
We looked everywhere for something to rent, somewhere to buy, and there was nothing.
It's just a very hard place to make it.
We miss Eastham over 50 years.
Having housing that's available to people who have mobility problems, so that, you know, if they're having with a walker or a wheelchair, that they can get in and out of their housing and get around, is so important, so that people can age independently and with dignity. Our mission is to lead our community in ensuring that we have a healthy, strong, diverse, year-round community of people who can afford to live here.
I grew up here in South Orleans on the Pleasant Bay. My husband is a fisherman out of Provincetown. Living in Eastham is almost the farthest away that we want to live from P-Town. I was referred to the Community Development Partnership, and we quickly did an application with them, and they were able to place us here in this house in Eastham, and we've been here for 6 years.
You know, one of the fundamentals about why our housing affordability crisis is so important is because housing is the foundation of a healthy family and a healthy community. These stresses of not having housing for our workforce are really undermining the health and viability of our community. And so when we've got healthcare workers, teachers, firefighters, people who maybe even own their own small business, but they're making too much money to qualify for affordable housing, that really undermines a healthy year-round community.
I live in the town of Eastham, and I run a business called the Ant Venture Decor. It was a big challenge for me finding affordable housing that could fit my family of 4 at the time. And then I couldn't find any year-round place to live at the time, so I ended up taking a winter rental in Eastham. And when that ended in June, I had to pick up another place to live, and I ended up with another short-term rental. And then I actually got a year-round house in Orleans at one point, but it was very expensive. I was happy to be given the opportunity to live in the affordable housing because it took a load of pressure off me when, I learned that I was going to be able to live stable. And it was also very comforting for my kids as well, that they were going to have a stable home.
If you're a kid and you're living in a household with a family that's wondering where it's going to live, how do you focus at school? And so I think just the amount of energy and stress and strain and distraction that living in a precarious housing situation creates for a family is really unhealthy for that family, but it also affects the entire community.
So my tremendous thanks to Rashida and Maren for allowing us into their homes and to be able to tell their stories. And so, Rashida, if you could just tell us a little bit about, what having stable and dependable and affordable housing has meant to you for your business and your family.
Hi, everyone. Being an immigrant and migrating here, you have to really work like a couple jobs to be able to sustain anything. And starting, my own business was what seemed like a good idea. As I go along, seems to be more challenging because it's taking on more expense and not having enough to sustain living in a comfortable home, being here on Cape Cod. And so finding the CDP was very helpful. I started out when I was looking for housing to accommodate my family. I started out looking into the option of buying. And so I first did the first-time home buyers class because I thought I could purchase a home at the time, only to know when I started looking into it, I wasn't making enough. And at least I also didn't have the down payment amount that I would need either. And it was very, very challenging just not being able to afford, suitable housing to house like a family of 4 at the time. We kind of was moving from places to places. And then I heard about the affordable housing development that was in Provincetown, and I applied, and it took a while, and I didn't even know that I was going to get approved for it because at the time I had my business in Provincetown, but I was living in Orleans. So I applied, and of course it's a lottery. So of the probably a million people, I don't know how many people applied, there's like a 1 out of maybe 10 chance that you might get one. But thankfully, I was third on the list for a third bedroom. And after they interviewed a couple of people that end up weren't qualified for the apartment, I was granted the opportunity to get one of the affordable housing, which made life a whole lot easier. And not because I didn't have to commute from Orleans to P-Town anymore, because my business was right next door on Champaign Road. And yeah, that in itself was a huge blessing. I was able to save. I was able to save enough money that I could come up with down payment for a house. And, you know, my husband and I, we purchased a house in Eastham, and now I'm residing in Eastham. And I'm still on Cape Cod, but I moved my business to Orleans because it was just more easy to manage the kids going to school. So that's a little bit into my story.
Thank you, Rashida.
You're welcome.
And Maren, why don't you share with us a bit about your family and what living in an affordable place has been for you guys?
Well, hi everybody. It's been
before Maren, I should also mention too that Maren has just joined the CDP's board of directors, and we're really excited to have one of our residents sitting on the board and helping us make better decisions.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just gonna listen for a long time, but it's really eye-opening and just nice to be part of such a nice group of people and to learn about how these things go and what's going on. And yeah, but you know, we started renting from the CDP in 2013, and my husband and I had not even been living together at the time when we found out that we were going to be welcoming twins into our life. And so that was a really big deal. And so I had been renting a room from a girlfriend who had, you know, a bunch of rooms in a house in Brewster, and Matt was living with his mom, and everything was really fine, except we needed to find a place fast, quick. And we looked and looked for about 6-7 months, and we just started to panic because there just literally was nothing to rent. Like from here, like all the way to Centerville, there was absolutely nothing to rent that wasn't either a winter rental or a year-round rental, which would, and the few that we did find were like you know, $5,000 a month or something like that. And it was like just crazy. So a friend of mine told me about the CDP. We got on the list, and a miracle happened. You know, 6 weeks after we got on the list, something opened up in Eastham, and we were able to move right in and get settled. And the house has like this big, gorgeous yard, and it's beautifully maintained, and they're here all the time, making sure that everything works properly. And if we need anything, they come right over. And it's just been really great. And we are just so thankful that we are somewhere stable. Like Rashida said, stability is so important. And I've taken the home buyer class through CDP, which has been so great. And we were looking at putting in some offers last year in February. We were about to kind of take the next step, and then COVID happened. And now we're in a different landscape with home ownership for sure. So, you know, I kind of said to myself, well, if I can't beat them, join them. And I got my real estate license over the winter. And I just joined Sotheby's this week. And so mom's back to work, and hopefully I can, reverse engineer this problem a little bit. But I think I'll be able to handle it, in the future. But I'm just glad that we've got the rental here and that we'll be able to stay here for a couple more years until we can get, we had a down payment ready to go, but now it's got to be double what we had, and that's fine, but it's just going to take a little more time. But so we're glad we're somewhere where we can just keep saving. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marion. So questions or comments that folks would like to make of our two speakers. I also want to just recognize Beth Bullock McGrail from Pierce Cote Advertising, who helped us with putting this campaign together. And then, of course, also to thank Representative Sarah Peak, who I'm pleased to share with you, just was able to secure $100,000 in the state budget for the CDP this year that helps support this video, the campaign, and all of the work that we do with a housing partnership to train municipal leaders and build the capacity of our community to create housing. So for that, let me open it up for questions. Barry, please.
Something you already. There's a new organization. I'm actually chair of the board called Housing Forward Massachusetts. It was established by Josh Zakim. This is Lenny Zakim's son, who was on the Boston City Council, and my friend Eleanor White, who's done a tremendous amount of work with affordable housing. And its purpose is to work with all housing groups across the state to help advocate with the legislature. We just put together a whole advocacy program for affordable housing that we're going to communicate to the governor and to legislative leaders. But we are ready to help CDP in any way in terms of our lobbying efforts, our educational efforts. We work, of course, with POA. We work with all of the other housing organizations. But I think we've got a very good platform, and at some point it might be worthwhile to have a Zoom meeting with Josh and with Eleanor and Ed Zucker, who's been helping us with it, a developer. But it's something that might help. I don't think we've done much on the Cape yet. We've been mostly doing stuff here and at the State House, but I think this is something we'd like to work on. Housing Partners Mass, you can check the website.
Great. Thank you, Barry. That's great news. And as Governor Baker said in our meeting today, he's going to need the help of housing advocates to get this through the legislature, and that we're going to needing to make legislators uncomfortable because it's a lot of money, and it's probably a lot of money that people would like to get their hands on for other things. But it really is, it's housing, not only on the Cape, but throughout the Commonwealth. That's really holding us back and robbing our communities of opportunity. So we'll really look forward to working with you and your colleagues, Barry. Thank you. Other comments or questions? Or anything else you guys want to say, Maren or Rashida?
Okay. This is Alan.
Alan.
I just got recognized, I think.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yes.
I've been following this for a long time, and what we do as housing advocates is we talk about those people who have to pay too much for housing. And we know that many people are even above 100% AMI that are paying too much. I'm just wondering, now that we have some housing production going on, and we know that under the various guidelines, nobody has to pay more than 30% of their income for housing, has anybody done any studies to see what this new disposable income that the tenants or purchasers now have, because they're no longer housing poor, what happens to that money? And I think about in Orleans, for example, as of yesterday, the 40B permit for Cape Cod 5 Penrose passed through the appeal period, and it is in effect, 62 units. Just waiting for financing, but it's downtown and so forth. And I'm just wondering if it's possible to begin to develop an argument saying, yes, we're providing housing, and the people that are coming into that housing used to overspend for housing, and now they bring more disposable income to our neighborhood and our town. Anybody familiar with any research that's been done on that? If not, we should do it, because I think it's powerful.
That is a really great point, Alan, that, I think it's, we talk about the importance of families not spending more than 30% of their income on housing, because when they do, then there are not funds to deal with medical emergencies, to save, to put your kids through college, to save for retirement. But there's also just the day-to-day expenses. There also isn't money to put nutritious food on the table, or to treat yourself to go out to dinner, or to spend at local merchants. And so when you've got more disposable income, you're recirculating that income into the economy. And so affordable housing is also a really pro-business strategy as well. And I will, I think it's a great point, Alan. I'll certainly look into Barry. You might know of some research that might help underscore or provide some numbers to this idea of when people are not house cost burdened, they can be contributing more to the local economy.
Jay and Alan, I don't know of any research that has done that specific question. It is that's a wonderful question to ask. I'll try and look around. I used to, do the Greater Boston Housing Report Card for 15 years for the Boston Foundation, and I've worked in housing for many years at Northeastern University. But I'll see what's around, not just here, but in other parts of the country. But it might be a project we could undertake pretty easily by basically asking some people to, help us sit down with a budget and say, okay, how do you spend your monthly income before and after they get affordable housing? And I would agree with Alan that this is probably a spur to the rest of the economy in terms of providing additional, spending for our restaurants, supermarkets, perhaps even, once in a while going to a movie show or something like that, which helps support other businesses throughout the Cape. And it would be fascinating as part of our advocacy to argue this is something that's good for the whole economy. What I often like to tell people is that when we deal with affordable housing, we deal with kinds of these issues. It's not just the people who get the affordable housing who benefit. We all benefit. And this is a wonderful way of showing it.
Thank you, Barry. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so I would. I'm sorry.
Rashida, thank you. Okay, please go ahead, Rashida.
Yes, so I don't have an answer to Ellen's question, but I can say for myself, who have lived in affordable housing and could not afford to pay regular rent or purchase a house, I can say that from not being able to or not having to pay so much for rent, I was able to save and then purchase a house, which is what I would say a lot of people that have, or most people that have affordable housing, that should be their primary goal, I would say. And also being able to have a little bit more money to my disposal, I was able to take my family out, or we could go once in a while to have dinner like people with money would be able to do, which I was not able to do before because I would have to save everything towards expenses. So it does gives you a better lifestyle. Not luxury, but just little things that you wouldn't be able to treat yourself to once in a while.
Thank you. Anybody else? So we are working on plans for our next community conversation. Britt, do you know the date off the top of your head, just to give folks a little preview of when we're doing that?
I wish I did, but because we're still coordinating speakers, we haven't nailed down a date,
Okay.
but it will be next month. And it
Yeah.
is going to be a topic you'll be interested in, I promise.
Yes. Yeah. Super. Well, thank you all very much. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for your continued support of the work that we do. And again, if you're interested in learning more or reserving community investment tax credits for your use, please talk to Britt so that we can make sure that we don't run out. And we really appreciate all that you do to help us do the work that we do. And my special thanks to Rashida and Maren for sharing your stories with us and really helping folks in our community understand why creating housing that's more affordable is so important. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.